When can you say you're financially stable? I got this question recently from a follower and close listener of the podcast, Money on My Mind podcast, from Charmaine Ong. And so thank you for sending that in. If you guys have other questions pertaining to something you want me to answer, feel free in the show notes below to submit your questions to me. Every once in a while, I'll do a podcast specifically on your question. And today, the topic is, when can you say that you're financially stable? And this is a big conversation and something that my wife and I went through ourselves. Financial stability and financial freedom are two different things. And I think there's levels to this. So I'm going to share my 3 levels that I believe are very, very important, and then break down like the details of everything behind this. So level number 1 is you're on your way. So if I'm going to explain in terms of our situation, my wife and I were on our way about 10 years ago. This was the moment that we got our stuff together. We finally had everything we needed. It's not to say we were financially free or we were financially stable at the time, but we finally got to the place that we needed to be to start the journey. So basically the only thing between you and financial freedom at this point in time is time. And so level 1 is an important step to get to, because this is when you actually have things in place. Your automated financial system is in place. A lot of times, most people don't get to this. I would venture to say about 75 to 80% of people never experience level 1. And that's a really disheartening stat. And in fact, I just made that up. But if I were to just use some common sense, if 80% of people are living paycheck to paycheck, my guess was the people that don't even make it past that step is a little higher to level 1. And so therefore, it pretty much makes a lot of sense. And again, it's pretty sad. So level 1, you're on your way. You've actually put everything you need in place and you're about to begin that journey, but you're not necessarily to the end goal, but you know exactly where you're headed. You have the exact roadmap, you have the exact financial plan. And if you get to this journey, this level, I think this right here is one of the most freeing feelings ever. It's not financial freedom by any means, but I think level 1 is when you become truly financially stable. You're not necessarily dependent on other people necessarily as much as you once were, because you're confident. You're confident in your education with finances. Obviously, do you have to still work? Yes. Do you need to still make income? Yes. But you're at a place where you can sleep better at night. And a lot of my Budgetdog Academy students do this right off the bat. Like the second you have things in place, again, it's about the journey, guys. You know, obviously financial freedom school, it's been an awesome experience. But when you first start, the best thing about finance is getting that clarity and confidence so that you don't feel bad about your money. Like even though you're not a millionaire, even though you're not multimillionaire, even though you haven't retired from your job, you feel better instantly when this stuff is in place. That is level 1. That's where my wife and I were about 10 years ago. We had an aha moment. That moment when I was outside working on my back patio and my father-in-law and all the construction workers were over helping us with the journey. We were talking about debt. And at the time, my wife and I, as you guys know, had $304,000 of debt. Not too great. And we decided to pay that debt off right away. But when I walked in that night, after having that huge conversation with all the guys out there in the backyard, I told her we're paying off our bed loan, which was $3,500 at the time, $75 a month, 0% interest through Synchrony Bank, right when I walked through that door. And that was the start of our journey. Now, at that moment, we were not level 1 yet, but we decided that was like the flame that ignited the rest of it. So once we had all that in place, we started to piece together all of the other pieces of the puzzle. Now, I'm going to go through everything that you need at this stage of the game. Now, there could be more, there could be less, depending on your situation, obviously, but some of the key pieces, not all of them by any means. It's impossible for me to go to everything here, but we have a budget, we have a balance sheet, we have an amortization schedule, a debt payoff plan, a money plan to reach goals, bill pay automation. Everything needs to be automated, guys. Investment accounts, investment allocations, investment resources, investment plan to reach goals, child investing, insurances. That's a big one. Trust and wills for estate planning, durable healthcare power of attorney in that, financial power of attorney, tax strategy, which is a very loose way of saying a lot, and also credit. So there's a lot of pieces of this puzzle that you need to have in level 1 to even be considered, hey, I'm on the right path. Because a lot of people like start this financial journey, they learn what a high yield savings account was, and they think they're financially literate. That's a sad reality for many people, and they kind of live in this bubble of thinking and making themselves feel good, when in fact it's just like, it's okay, put down the ego and get the right information. Because if you apply this, no matter how you feel, you'll feel better at the end of the day. And so having all of these things are things my academy students will absolutely be doing, plus much more. If you listen to that list and it's not on there, you need to take action to get these things on your list and go through that, replay exactly what I just said again. Make sure every last one of these things are on your list. That gets you to level 1. So that's where my wife and I were about 10 years ago. This was a very enlightening, fun journey as well. Like obviously there's a lot that's happened since, but I remember the feeling, the freeing feeling right off the bat. It was just awesome to know we were headed in the right direction finally. And we knew it would take time. We were 23 years old, 22 years old. It wasn't a big deal. We were young in our careers. We didn't have kids. We had 2 dogs at the time. We just wanted to feel good about our money once and for all. And you can do the same right away as long as you apply the stuff that we talk about at Budgetdog Academy immediately. So that's level 1. And that's where we were, like I said, about 10 years ago. Now, level 2 is a step up. And this is where we were, I would say, about 5 years ago. So this is where you have more flexibility in life, but you're still not entirely independent. So maybe one spouse can quit a 9-to-5, or you can choose your own line of work, or maybe you scale back into a different profession that you've always wanted to do because you're not as reliant on income anymore. You know you're already on the pathway. You know that this income reduction might slow your journey up necessarily, but it's okay because you realize this is going to take your journey from maybe instead of 10 years like you were on pace to do, you're going to take it to 12 and a half or 15, but that extra 2.5 to 5 years to do what you want to do the whole entire journey is well worth it. Financial freedom is not black and white, guys. We reached level 2 about 6 years ago. Oh, no, sorry, 4 years ago. So about 4 years ago is when I quit my 9-to-5. So we're recording this in 2024. I guess it was actually 2021. It was about 3 years ago. I'm way off today. So 3 years ago, we quit my 9-to-5 at Deloitte. I was working at Deloitte. I joke it's actually a 5 to 9. It was 24/7. But I was working at Deloitte and I was ready to take that leap of faith. I was ready to go all in on Budgetdog and all these cool things. And I remember, I think it was August 9th of 2021 or somewhere around there. We paid off our house. We were a lot less dependent on an income. We were a lot more capable to take a leap of faith, to take a jump into something that we really, really felt passionate about. And one of those things were what I'm doing right today, which is teaching financial freedom, teaching financial education. And I knew if I took that leap of faith, I could totally fall on my face. But I had an income with my wife to kind of support me. So if I fell on my face, nothing happened from it. It wasn't the end of the world. But level 2 is really fun. Level 1, it kind of stirs you up, it frees you up, but level 2 is awesome. Level 2 allows you to do something in your life and you've seen the result. You feel that result from the 10 years ago in our situation. We started that process. All that hard work for 6 straight years put us in the position in level 2 to actually take the leap of faith, to actually do something we really wanted to do. And in fact, what's crazy about this step, and it happened to us as well, is usually you don't fall on your face, because when you have the confidence to leave your 9-to-5 to do something you love, your energy follows it, and it shows very easily. People know I love this because I do it every single day, and I have for, let's call it 5 years online, about 10 years offline. And so people feel that energy, that real, raw, authentic energy, and that usually brings more people to you, which in turn brings more money into your business. And so as I started doing this, people saw I loved it, and I had more time, and I was more public facing because I had more time. I wasn't in an audit room anymore at Deloitte. I wasn't working till 12 o'clock at night. I was focused on my business, and I was able to put so much time and energy in it, and people saw that because they saw more content. They saw more one-to-ones. They saw more FaceTime. They saw all of this. My DMs were answered quicker, and it took off. And a lot of times this happens in a good way. The hardest part's in the beginning to get started. If you don't make it to level 1, you're 80% of people, like I said earlier, 85% of people. If you're able to be in that top 15% where you get to level 1, level 2 is going to come, and level 3 is going to come. We'll talk about that in a second. But this level 2 is when you start to live the life you deserve to live, the life that you want to live out, your passion, whatever the case is. And it was a very cool experience for us because we actually saw it happen in real time. Quit my job, I had more time, we made more money, and it put us in a position to get to level 3. Now, I'm going to pause a little bit and show you what happened in level 2 as well, because this is life. So 5 months into our journey, our little daughter had her first seizure, and she was diagnosed with Dravet syndrome. And as you guys know, Budgetdog is doing a massive effort to not only raise awareness, but also raise money for Dravet syndrome. So on my website, also in the show notes below, we have a link that you can contribute to basically our $1 million goal for Dravet syndrome. Obviously no pressure, but we raise a lot of awareness for this all the time. So you hear me talk about it from time to time. 5 months in, when she was diagnosed with this level 2 looked a little different. Our goal initially was to kind of coast for a year or two, do the right thing, build the business up slow and steady, then reach level 3 where my wife could leave her job. We were independent entirely. That wasn't the case. And this is what typically happens. Life happens in some sort of way. So we get to level 2 and this all happens. This actually sped our journey up a lot more. So initially, pretty conservative, if you guys haven't been able to tell financially. So I was going to take our slow, sweet time, over the next 1 to 2 years, build this business up, take my time, and eventually my wife would be able to quit. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And what ended up happening was, because I had to put us in a position to have Erin out of her 9-to-5, and her to basically take care of Logan, I had to speed this journey up. And so basically within 6-7 months after that, I had my wife quit her job. And I've shared this story before, but we were driving up to Michigan to one of her work events. And the first thing I said was, there was a bunch of snow on the ground. I said, turn the damn car around. You're going home, you're quitting your job, and you're staying home with Logan. And at the time, we needed that. Logan was having seizures. There was no end in sight, and her job wasn't that important. And if we weren't at level 2, if we didn't get to level 1, which then allowed us to get to level 2, 10 years ago, we would not be in the position to be able to say that. I would not have had the confidence at that moment to say, turn the car around because it's snowing and I'm not going to sit on this interstate up in Michigan to potentially have a seizure on the interstate and be stuck. Not going to happen. We're turning this around, you're quitting your job, and we're going home. She was obviously on board. We both agreed to it, talked about it at a very, in more in-depth length. But to long story short, that's exactly what happened. But that's because I was at level 2. And Erin and I were in a good position to be able to take care of her daughter. And obviously there's a lot that's played out since then, as you guys know, but that piece was huge. Level 2 was massive. I highly encourage not only to get to level 1, but to continue level 1 until you get to the point where you're like, one day you'll wake up and you're like, I feel a lot different. That boss that just pissed me off at work doesn't piss me off as much anymore because I know I can say goodbye. That person out in public making a scene doesn't make as big of a deal because you're not as reliant on an income or reliant on doing something. You get to choose what you want to do at level 2. And that's a really cool thing. Now, maybe one spouse is not choosing fully what they're wanting to do at this point in time. And that's where level 3 comes into play in a second. But level 2 is a good place to be because you start to feel different. You start to act different. You're energetically, literally different. And that usually brings more opportunities and brings more financial freedom and brings more money, quite honestly. When you don't need something, more stuff comes to you. And that's just like a proven psychological fact. And so level 2 is awesome. And so we were in level 2 till about this past year, in fact, to where we got to level 3. Level 3 is where you're truly independent of income. You don't need income at all, but you're truly independent of income. And you have investments set up, whether it's a stock market, real estate, business, whatever the case is, and you have these investments set up to where neither one of you have to work. This is a special place. This is financial freedom. This is truly what financial freedom is. And your timeline's going to be different, right? So level 2 could be 5 years, it could be 10 years, it could be 15 years. Level 1's pretty much when you want to make it happen. When you step up to the plate, you make it happen, it happens. Level 1 to level 2 could be 5, 10 years, 15 years, could be 20 years, depends how fast you want it. How much do you want this? When you get to level 3 though, I'm telling you right now, it is the best. And I can speak from experience because like 2 days ago, we unfortunately were in the ER. But the cool thing about the ER, in a weird way to say it, is that we were both able to be present. We didn't ask a boss to take off, and we got to be there with our daughter when she needed it. And it was a blessing. And so obviously, it's not what I hope to be in and experience is our financial freedom stage or level 3 is to be in a hospital to feel the gratitude of it. But if you really think about it, how many times are both parents able to be at an ER visit or in the hospital? In fact, the nurses typically thank both of us for being there, which is kind of concerning. But a lot of times people have to be working. They have to be earning an income. And they're not in this position because they haven't invested. They haven't put their money into the vehicles that actually get them to level 3. That's what level 3 is full financial freedom no matter what happens. Our investments, I think in November of 2023, made $92,000 in 1 month. We did nothing. It made $92,000 a month. To give you perspective of why that number is so special, was our first income. It actually beat our first income. So when we were in level 1, we first started 10 years ago, our income joint was $92,000 on the dot. So we had $50,000 as my income at Deloitte and $42,000 as my wife's job in sales at the time. This is back 10 years ago. And so we had $92,000. Our income then was $92,000. Our income in the month of November of 2023 was $92,365 or something like that. That beat our first income. But the thing that shift over a decade was active income to passive income. We didn't do anything. When you're at that point, your life changes entirely. You don't need people. You don't need to make an income. You don't need all these other things. And therefore, more money typically comes to you, more opportunity comes to you. People look up to you. People are trying to figure out how to get to your spot, all these types of things. And there's so much opportunity in that. And you get to do it on your own schedule whenever you want. And I encourage a lot of people to get to this step. And obviously, a lot of people have these limiting beliefs as to why they can't do it. I don't make enough money, blah, 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 blah. You're just making things up, just so you know, in your head. And I say that with a respectful tone because I know you can do it. And it might take longer than expected. The first step is the hardest by far. When you're doing the budget, balance sheet, amortization schedule, if you've never done that before, that's a hard step to even get to. Then you add the debt payoff plan, the money plan to reach goals, all your automations with bills, investments, and debt pay downs. Then you're trying to set up your investment accounts and your allocations. You're in over your head. You got to know what resources to be using. You got to have an investment plan to achieve all your goals. You're going to start investing for your children. How do you know how much insurance to have? What type of insurance to have? You ask a barber if you need a haircut and they're going to say yeah. So if you ask an insurance agent what insurance you need, they might tell you all the insurances, technically speaking, or whatever they're selling. You need a trust of will, you need a estate plan, the healthcare power of attorney, the financial power of attorney, the tax strategy. That's a huge can of worms itself. And then credit. And that's just like a summarized version. So if you actually break apart each one of those little bullets I just listed, that's an overwhelming stage. And that's why 80% of people will never get here. 85 or whatever the case is aren't ever going to get here. If you get past that stage, and we help people in Budgetdog Academy do this all the time. It's like the back of my hand. This is why we get the big results that we get. The boring way, it's the financially responsible way. And it's the way that's going to work long term. And you're going to set it up. And when you set it up, you're going to get in level 1, where my wife and I were 10 years ago. And then, 4 years ago, when we hit level 2, the optionality that comes to you when you're able to do this finally is such a freeing, fun feeling. Then you get to level 3. And level 3 is where you really experience life. Life's still going to come at you, but you still have the experiences that you never had because you had to go to a job. Guys, I think right now is Tuesday at 12:18 when I'm filming this. Tuesday at 12:18. I'm going to go to the gym after. I have zero agenda today. My wife's out there in the living room right now, hanging out with Logan and Ellie, and we have no agenda today. We are truly financially free. Nobody tells us what to do. And when you reach this spot, I can tell you right now, your whole entire life's going to change in a good way. But I always say that everybody can do it, few will. You have it in you if you decide to want to start this process. Leverage my resources, my free content, join the Budgetdog Academy. Don't wait on the sideline. Do this stuff. Take advantage of this stuff because it's readily available for you. I'm not a gatekeeper, guys. I have everything laid out. I do free events all the time, child investing, 3-day free seminars, whatever you guys need. I'm always here posting content daily on YouTube, podcasts, my TikTok, my Twitter, my Instagram, my Facebook. It's all widely available for you. There's nothing behind the curtain. Everything's right in front of you guys. Think about this awesome, even level 1. Your bills are paid. Your emergency fund is funded fully. You have all your bad debt paid off. All your other debts, manageable debt, if any. You have 15% of automation contributions going into your investment accounts for retirement. Other, non-retirement investments are being invested for right now. Your FI numbers mapped out. You know exactly how much to invest per month in exactly which funds and exactly which accounts. You know specifically when that's going to happen based on a set of assumptions, and you have a full and clear financial plan. When you're at that stage, it's a gold mine. It's exciting. It wakes you up. And typically what happens, you have a lot more energy to, achieve a lot more. And you typically will speed this process up almost every single time. When I first started, my wife and I expected a 15-year debt payoff journey that turned into 5 years. So the reality is when you first start, it's going to feel long. It's going to feel as if you're never going to achieve it, but at least you have it mapped out. And then typically what happens is because you're energized, because you're starting to think and you're focused on one mission now, you can focus on a plan versus all these millions of different things coming your way. You now have the focus that you didn't have before to put yourself in the best possible position to speed this process up. That's when life happens. That's when the intention starts to begin. All of a sudden, my students are like, well, I just paid off that debt in 3 weeks versus 3 years. How did I do that? Well, Wendy, you followed a plan, you got on a plan, and now you feel great about it. So you sped this process up, and that's exactly why you did it. I had a student that just got into a house. They thought it was going to take them 3 years. It took them 1 year to get a down payment for that house and get into that house in today's market when everyone's freaking out about interest rates. I mean, I could go on for days about every single story I have. Another student increased their net worth $125,000 in 15 weeks. 15 weeks. This stuff is happening every day. Even one of the people on my team, she lives over in the Philippines and she does some work that you guys don't see. It's kind of behind the scenes. She was able to go on her first vacation in 5 years because she's like, I finally figured out just the simple roadmap to wealth. I mean, there's a reason I have my bestseller book out, The Roadmap to Financial Freedom, a millionaire's guide to building automated wealth. There's a reason this is a bestseller. There's a reason I'm on 3 national bestseller lists: USA Today, Amazon, and Barnes & Noble, because people understand this book will get them there. Budgetdog Academy will get you there, and it's on you. So I'm gonna let you sit with that, and hopefully this really hits home today, because the 3 levels of financial freedom, and going back to the initial questions, when are you actually financially stable? It's when you hit that level 1. Charmaine, when you hit that level 1, you're gonna feel so much different. And then it goes level 1 to level 2 to level 3 pretty quickly. And when I say quickly, relatively quickly, it could be 5 years, it could be 20 years, it could be 30 years, depending on your income and how you operate and all that kind of stuff and how you are as a person. But everybody can get there, guys. I'm super excited to share this every single day with you guys, because it is so close to being had by you, and it's up to you guys to take that and apply it. And I hope this helps, and I will see you guys next week.